everybody, and welcome back to the Bleeding Grave podcast.
Welcome to episode 5.
Oh
Hannah, guess what?
What?
Do you know what episode 5 means?
It means that we've made 5 episodes?
That, and also we hit double digits on stories.
Oh, yeah?
We've done 10 stories.
Yeah, after
Just
this
think
episode,
about that.
we will have done 10 stories. That is crazy.
Yeah, after this episode, 10 whole stories. We hit double digits.
Double digits.
Double digits. I like you. Double digits, everybody.
Double digits. Here we go.
And I can't wait till we hit the 10th episode.
That's going to be exciting.
Because I got something in mind for the 10th episode.
I need to figure it out. This is my second to last pre-researched topic that I did ahead of time. So I'm coming up quickly on having to research my topics every week.
Just kind of been lazy these last couple of weeks then?
Save for last week. I actually did about half of the research for the topic right before I came over here last week.
Okay.
But I just had a bunch saved up from, because we had spent a lot of time just hanging out and working on research and stuff.
We did.
And so I had a lot of topics just ready to go.
See, that's better than me because I had a lot of half-ass topics. Like, I'd start, and then I'm like, oh, I should probably look up another one.
Oh, yeah.
And then I would do it, and then I'd stop halfway through, and I'd look, and I'm like, well, this is a flustercluck.
There was a certain point where I had a few half-baked topics. But then I went to go finish one, and I finished it, and I was like, well, I'll check out another one, and then I finished that one. And so, like, within a couple days, I had 3 or 4 of them finished and ready to go.
Wow. That's definitely better than
And this is why I'm trying to find a job in copywriting and proofreading and editing and all of that, because
freelance work.
I know I'm on Fiverr right now, so
Okay.
if you need somebody
Good.
to edit audio or do proofreading, hit a girl up.
I mean, you can see from already the editing of the podcast, that's all Hannah.
Yeah, that's all me. Speaking of the editing of the podcast, I'm aware that episode 4, the end gets a little choppy. We had so many tangents. So, in spirit of the tangents, if you're interested in them, you can go to Patreon. And if you are I think we're going to do like a $5 a month subscriber, you will get tangents every first Tuesday of the month, and that will be Tangent Tuesday.
Tangent Tuesdays. I got so excited.
You got so excited.
Tangent Tuesdays.
You jumped forward into the microphone to yell that.
People got to know.
So Tangent Tuesdays will be a thing, and if you join Patreon and are one of our subscribers, that will just help us to be able to get some cash flow with this and keep this going and be able to do bigger and better things and only improve the quality of the show going forward.
Absolutely. Without further ado, Hannah, where's the coin? I do not see the coin. Is it under the computer?
I don't know. This is your house. It was under the computer.
It was under the computer. You know what's kind of unfortunate, though? Listening to that 4th episode, you can't hear the coin. You couldn't hear me, but you can hear it right now. Did you take that out? Or
there was a very light thud on the floor, and it just didn't make sense to keep it in because it sounded like a really long pause.
Fair enough. Okay. Anyways, with the spirit and continuity, Hannah, ladies first, what do you choose this week?
Heads.
All right, here we go. God damn, 2 for 2. That's heads. All right. Start us off again, Hannah.
How do you like having a medium for a cousin?
I hate it.
I didn't actually use that. I just guessed.
Bullshit.
I did just guess. I did find out that I can use my mediumship while playing Mario Party, though. Sorry, Roz and Ella, because I was definitely doing that during some of the games that we were playing.
So whenever I play Mario Party at my house, Hannah is no longer invited because she's going to win. You know what? Okay, how about this? If you win 2 times in a row, I'll believe you. If you don't, I call bullshit.
Okay, that's fair. It's not for all of the games. It was just like for some games where you have to wait for something in order to figure out what to do. And I was able to figure out where certain characters were coming from.
Your intuition was strong with those games.
Very strong.
Okay, I see. It's not necessarily to win the entire game, but certain games you have a stronger intuition.
Certain games I can kind of figure it out, because obviously there's definitely games that are more, it has to do a lot more with chance than anything.
Fair. Okay. Ooh, so would you be good at that one game with the Rock and the Cubs and...
You know, I haven't tried that since really tapping into my mediumship, but
You should. Scam a scammer.
you should try that sometime.
Yeah, go
Should see
downtown
what I do.
Minneapolis and go to the back alleys. Be perfect.
Yeah, okay, because I'm going to go hang out in some alleys in Minneapolis. That
Hey,
sounds
you'll have-
super safe.
You'll have
and
me there.
Fun.
It'll be totally safe down there. All right, Hannah, why don't you get this ball rolling on episode 5?
All right, so this one's a little less paranormal. It's going to be a bit more macabre, morbid, dark history.
I love morbid.
Let's go back to the 18th and 19th century
All right.
in Scotland, Wales, and some parts of England.
What are we doing here?
We're going to be talking about sin eaters.
Sin eaters. All right.
You know what a sin eater
Nope,
is?
not in the slightest.
Okay. Well, I didn't either until, gosh, I don't even know how many years ago now, until I was doing a scene in one of my theater courses in college, and it involved a sin eater. And of course, I was like, what the fuck is a sin eater? So I looked it up. Sounds like witchcraft to me, but
I mean, what doesn't sound like witchcraft anymore, you know?
honestly. And so when we decided to do the podcast, I decided I absolutely needed to cover sin eaters because morbid, macabre, dark history, here we are.
I mean, that's the essence of who we are.
So, in the 18th and 19th centuries, when a loved one would die unexpectedly, families would place food, usually bread, on the chest of their deceased loved ones. They would then have the local sin eater come and eat the food from the deceased chest to take on their sins. This practice was believed to prevent the dead from wandering the earth and usually consisted of breads and beer or wine. In time, it became common practice among Christian Europeans in the 18th and 19th century. First, it was usually reserved for unexpected deaths in case the deceased hadn't had time to confess all of their sins. Later on, it started being seen regularly as part of funeral traditions with those who died of natural causes as well. So who is the sin eater?
Yes, I'm quite curious to know whom is the sin eater?
The sin eater was usually a very low-class citizen, and they were treated as such. They were undesirables. People didn't give them the time of day other than when they needed them to come and take on their loved one's sins.
Well, that's just sad.
So regularly they were outcasts of the town. They usually lived on the outskirts of town as well. They usually didn't have a strict religious affiliation, which is why they were okay with doing this. They didn't really see any harm in it.
I guess, and free food.
And free food. So if they got paid, it was very rare that they did, but if they got paid, it was only the equivalent of a few US dollars today.
Oofda.
Yeah. So the irony of it being something that became so important in tradition, but the people who were needed to do it were treated so poorly.
Yeah, it's like, here, you want to do this, you get some free food out of it, but you're still scum. But this is a really important role.
It's a really important role, but because they were willing to take on the sins of others, they were just seen as putrid people.
Man, if you can have a ritual for like that, I guess you could have a ritual for a cleansing of these people too. But I guess
You would think.
But
we'll get into kind of how they were treated at their deaths and everything as well.
All right.
So, what did this ritual look like? Families would place bread and other foods on the chest of their deceased loved ones, along with wine or beer. The bread was thought to soak up any sins that hadn't been repented for by the deceased. By eating and drinking, the sin eater would then take on and carry those sins for the rest of their mortal lives, which sounds like eternal damnation to me.
100% eternal damnation right there.
Bear with me, I have a quote from an Atlas Obscura article about sin eaters.
Is this written in the ye old language?
Some of it is written in ye old language, so
All right.
bear with me and my dyslexia.
All right, I'm on the edge of my seat.
According to Brand's Popular Antiquities of Great Britain, first published in 1813, the sin eater sat down facing the door. They then gave him a groat, which he put in his pocket, a crust of bread, which he ate, and a full bowl of ale, which he drank oft at a draught. After this, getting up from his stool, he pronounced with a composed gesture the ease and rest of the soul departed, for which he would pawn his own soul.
Is there any I get the gist of it, but is there any translation with that?
So basically, this is referring to the ritual and what it looked like. So the sin eater would come in. They would sit facing the door. I'm guessing as a way of helping the soul to leave, face the way they want the soul to leave. And this is just my guess based on what I know about rituals.
Right.
Groat, I assume that's money, put it in his pocket. He would have bread, which he ate, and a bowl of ale, which he drank oft at a draught, which is just drinking as he goes through. And he will finish the ale as he's going through this ritual. After the ritual, he will stand up, and he will basically announce that the soul has departed and can rest with ease. And he is essentially pawning his own soul for that soul.
Yeah, I mean, it really seems like a high-level job. Or, from a religious standpoint of rituals and the life after death, it seems like a very important role, but...
The church hated them.
Clearly.
Because this was not there was no actual religious affiliation to this. And in some cases, instead of the pastor coming and speaking the final rites and saying prayers and things like that over the body, the sin eater would come and take on the sins.
I guess everyone has their own way of doing everything, but as well to treat somebody that's doing a
thankless job.
Literally a thankless job for scraps of food, some beer, whatever, mead, beer, wine, ale at that time.
And maybe a couple bucks.
And a couple bucks. But you're done, you're treated like trash, scum. No better than the rats.
Go back to your poverty life and basically try to make it by. Sin eaters were seen in such a poor light, despite doing a necessary job. The job was seen as being so distasteful that some believed the eater became more evil each time they did their task.
Oh, well, I guess I could see that because, I mean, if you're taking the sins of this deceased, you just have double, triple, quadruple the sins now.
Yeah, you have
you're
all the sins, an abundance of sins. It was thought to be repulsive to do this task, even for the sake of not starving.
It was repulsive to do this task?
It was thought to be repulsive, but also thought to be necessary. It was there was really no winning with this.
No, you do it.
People genuinely believed they needed sin eaters, but they hated them. They thought that they were so repulsive and disgusting and treated them in such vile ways.
I'm going to guess these are like an upper level class of people.
Middle and upper class.
But still, like...
People who have a couple groats.
They literally think these people are necessary evils. Mm-hmm. And
that's a really good way to put it, actually, is a necessary evil. Wow. But this just goes to show you the fear that comes with the idea of sin within certain religions.
Oh, God. The fear of sin just drives you mad.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. The job and need for someone to complete this task only came about from an adaptation of morals, as sin was a very serious thing and people would do almost anything to ensure a safe and swift passage to heaven. Some think that this ritual can be traced back to the pagans, but most believe that it comes from medieval times when mourners would give food to the poor in exchange for prayers for their deceased loved ones.
See, I believe that last one. Well, I believe both of them, but it seems more plausible.
So, I've got one little note here about the last known sin eater in England.
Oh.
His name was Richard Munslow.
That sounds like such an English name.
And he passed away in 1906.
What?
Mm-hmm. In 2010, Munslow was finally given a funeral of his own in Ratlinghope, England. He was most likely the first and only of this profession to ever have a funeral. People from the local community raised money and did work to restore his headstone for him.
Oh, that's nice.
In his life, Richard was a farmer and appeared to be in good social standing. Some believe that the reason he brought sin-eating back to life was because of the loss of several of his children at young ages, most to scarlet fever.
Oh, yeah, that was a big epidemic in the mid-1800s, the scarlet fever. Mm-hmm. I hope you dive into that at some point, too. I love learning about scarlet fever.
I probably will because, again, old medical practices are barbaric and awful because we didn't know a goddamn thing.
Oh, just a little tangent. That last story, episode 4, man, I still have chill. Like listening to that episode again, that gives me chills.
But yeah, so that's sin eaters. I guess I didn't have the notes that I thought that I did about kind of their funerals and things, but they didn't get funerals. People think that they didn't deserve them because they willingly took on sins. You know, these people were going straight to hell once they died.
So that brings up brings up something that I just thought of. So you have the sin eaters that eat the sin of the middle and upper class. So I'm just guessing that the sin eaters of this lower class don't get that same within their own class.
Nope, there's nobody to eat their sins.
So basically, their family probably just buries them out in the back and just call it a day.
They usually didn't even have family connected to them, as far as I know.
Oh, so they were more
They were very much loners.
There's a term for it. I can't think of the top.
Just complete outcasts on their own.
Yeah.
On their own.
Wow. Mm-hmm. What a life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's in the worst. That's the what a life in the worst way possible.
Absolutely. And it was, who even knows how many years? Oh, no, we do know how many years. It was more than 100 years before Richard Munslow got his actual funeral.
100 years.
He passed away in 1906, and his funeral was in 2010.
Oh, that's right. You did say that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I'm wondering who was fighting so hard for him to get that.
It was the local community.
Oh, so somebody must have read about his story from one of the local public archives or whatever you want to say.
Absolutely.
And was like, wow.
So not only did he get his funeral, but they completely restored his headstone. And he had a service and everything. So it took a while, but at least for the final sin eater, some sort of, what's the word?
Some sort of closure.
Yeah, there's some sort of closure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, somebody got the respect that all of these people deeply deserved.
The respect that they didn't get, and for probably a couple hundred years they were probably doing this too.
In their lifetimes, yeah, over the course of centuries.
So it's nice to end sin eaters on a good note.
Well, and like I said, when he became a sin eater, he was in very good standing within the community.
Oh, that's right.
Like, people loved him, and this was his way of coping with the deaths of his children.
I guess if you have a reason, you explain it, and if you're in good standings in society back then, they just forget about it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and I mean, as far as I know, most sin eaters were pretty much gone by the time he started sin eating. But
so it's kind of like a dying practice by that time.
Oh, yeah. That's why he was the last one. It was already pretty much gone, and he brought it back.
Just to be able to cope with the loss of his children.
Cope and mourn and everything.
I mean, hey, everyone's got their way to cope and mourn.
And if you think about it, if, this was going on into the 19th century, and he was doing this somewhere in the 19th century, probably towards the end of it, the belief system was still there. People were probably very aware of it, but it was on its way out, for sure.
Right. Wow. Heavy.
Heavy, not like heavy, but it kind of tugs at your heartstrings a little bit.
It does. It really does.
Because, like we said, this was a thankless job. It was a necessary job. And
I mean, it goes to show you how evil humans are throughout
really
history.
Is for people to demand that you come and eat somebody's sins, but you treat them just like absolute horseshit for it. It's like, you called me here. You wanted me to do this. Why? Like, why are you so awful?
Unfortunately, they didn't have that way of thinking. It was just, I'm getting free food, free alcohol, and some money.
And it was very much out of self-preservation for a lot of sin eaters who took it up.
Hey, whatever you got to do to survive.
Mm-hmm. So, sin eaters.
Sin eaters.
What do you got, Austin?
Well, so today I thought it'd be fun to cover the I-70 killer.
Okay.
Not to be mistaken with the I-70 Strangler. There are two of them.
Oh, no shit.
And I didn't know that there was two of them until I was looking up the I-70 killer. So, the I-70 Strangler will be at another episode. So, who is the I-70 killer? Well, he's still unidentified to this day. With eyewitness accounts and depictions, he is a white male around 5'8", reddish or light brown short hair, from 140 to 160 pounds. So very generic, but this is...
Austin.
Shut up.
Do you not fit that description?
Okay, I am closer to 200 pounds, thank you very much. I've got some extra meat on my bones. This dude's a stick.
Okay.
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 All right. So what makes the I-70 killer a serial killer? Well, he went on a murder spree from April 8th to May 7th in 1992 along I-70 from Terre Haute, Indiana, and Wichita, Kansas. He murdered 5 women and 1 man. These were all at private-owned businesses or some variation thereof. There's still no clear motive on why he murdered these women and 1 man. And the 1 man is an interesting point in the span of murders.
Okay.
As well, after murdering these women and 1 man, he stole small amounts of cash, ranging from anywheres from under $50 to a few $100s, but would never clear out the register. And he wouldn't take anything else from the store. So it's basically like he come in, he kill him, he takes some money and leave. It's like there's not a
lot of motive.
No, exactly. So the women he would go after were young, petite, and brunette. And the one reason why the police speculate he went after the 1 man, which we'll get into here in a little bit, is because he had very similar features to a woman and was mistaken as a woman. So the I-70 killer's first murder took place on April 8th, 1992 in Indianapolis. This is where we meet Robin Fludauer. She was 26 years old. She was a manager at a Payless shoe store. And she was found dead in the back of the store around 3 p.m. Investigative personnel and the coroner state that she had only been dead a few hours when she was found. She had been shot in the back of the head, and there was less than $100 that had been taken from the register. Fast forward 3 days to April 11th, 1992. We go to Wichita, Kansas at the La Bride d'Elegance bridal shop, where we meet Patricia Majors, who is the owner of the store. She is 32, and Patricia Smith, 23, who is an employee at the store. And these are his second and third victims as well.
Okay.
Both women stayed past the closing time of 6 o'clock, and this was on a Saturday too, so I bet they wanted to get out of there. They stayed longer because they had a customer who placed an order and was coming after 6 to pick up a cummerbund. The customer arrives at the store, and the women let him in. What they don't know is they just let in the I-70 killer. The actual customer arrives about 5-10 minutes later, walks into the door, and comes face to face with the killer.
God, can you imagine being late to your appointment?
Right?
And you walk in and a fucking serial killer had come in and was like, yep, that's me. And took your appointment spot. Like, you're going to be like, yeah, no, you can have it.
So he walks into the store. He comes face to face with the killer. He sees both Patricias laying on the floor, and he sees a gun in the killer's hand. Killer.
There's 2 Patricias?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, you're right. There's 2 Patricias. Sorry.
Here's 2 Patricias. The killer then tells the man to come with him and come to the back of the store. The man refuses and starts backing away from the killer, and the killer just looks at him and tells him to leave.
Done. Out. I'm
gone.
Gone.
Again, Scooby Dude, right out. The man thinks to himself, if he listened to that killer, he probably would have been dead too. Now the man gets back to his house, and about an hour after the incident, he finally decides to report what happened. And in his statement, he said the reason why he took so long to make the report was because he was so much in shock, so frightened, scared for his life, he didn't know what to do right then and there. But we get the best accurate description of the killer. And this is the first description we get of this killer. Now here comes the part with that 1 man. This is Michael McCown. He's 40 years old. This happened on April 27th, so about a half a month later, in Terre Haute, Indiana. And I really hope I'm saying that right. Terre Haute. If there's anyone listening from Indiana and can actually pronunciate this to me.
Yeah, hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Let us know.
Exactly.
We want to pronounce things correctly, but we're not great at that.
Nope. So this is what you get. Michael was working at his mom's, Sylvia's, ceramic store. and he was shot dead around 4 p.m., the coroner states. During the investigation, they found Michael had his back turned and was facing the shelves. So they were thinking that he was more than likely restocking the shelves late in the afternoon. And again, the killer shoots him in the back of the head. To mistake him, because Michael had a long ponytail, brown hair, and was very small, like a petite woman would be. He was probably only 5'4", 5'5".
Okay, so he shot him in the back of the head because he had mistaken him for a woman. And I don't think I mentioned it at the La Bride d'Elegance bridal shop. Both Patricias were also shot in the back of the head. So that is a key characteristic of the I-70 killer. Mm-hmm. Always shoots him in the back of the head. Mm-hmm. So yeah, Michael was shot in the back of the head, and less than $50 were stolen from the register, and his wallet was nowhere to be found. And investigators think the killer chose this store mainly because it could be an easy target, and having a solo woman's name on the business as well would make for an easy target. Yeah.
A few more days later, May 3rd, 1992, the I-70 killer's fifth victim, Nancy Kitzmiller, she was 24 years old, lives in St. Charles, Missouri, where she also worked at the Boot Village. Nancy opened the store at noon and was working by herself for the first few hours, and eyewitness reports said that they saw her helping a customer when she was last seen alive, and the description of that customer was a skinny white male. Around 2:30, she was found dead by another customer with a gunshot wound in the back of her head. Oddly enough, there were no gunshots reported during this time as well, given that it was 2:30 in the afternoon or somewhere right around there.
And I assume he's not using a silencer or anything.
I mean, that's up to speculation.
Okay, sorry.
What he's going to be using.
I'll be quiet. I'll let you do your job and tell the story.
Yeah, we'll get to what kind of firearm he was using in a little bit.
Wait, silencers are a real thing, aren't they?
Silencers are a real thing.
Okay.
Hannah.
I just had a moment where I was like, wait a minute, did TV get to me and those aren't real?
No. TV did not get to you. Silencers are 100% real. They make them for a wide range of firearms.
Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you for clarifying that.
You are so welcome. And some money was taken from the cash drawer as well.
Okay.
And last bit of information with Nancy is this: on this day, it was supposed to be her day off, but she agreed with another coworker to switch shifts.
Imagine being that coworker.
I do not want to imagine being that coworker. The amount of guilt that she has to feel after that happened.
They definitely shouldn't have to feel it, but they will. It's human nature.
You absolutely, if I didn't ask her to take this shift, none of this, or it would have been me and not her. Maybe this would never happen. Yeah. And that's shoulda, woulda, coulda. Absolutely, survivor's guilt. Now, 4 days later, on May 7th, 1992, the sixth and last confirmed kill of the I-70 killer. Sarah Blessing, who was 37 years old, from Raytown, Missouri. Sarah was working in her gift shop, and her store aptly named Store of Many Colors.
That's actually very cute, and I love that.
It's a little, what kind of store that you have all the paper and everything?
Like a stationery store?
Stationery store, that's what it's called.
Okay.
That's what it's called, sorry.
Because I was trying to think, I was like, the only store I can think of that would just really have paper would be like a stationery store. Yeah,
stationery store. So a store of many colors. It was like a stationery store she owned.
That's really cute.
And her store was along a lot of other stores, kind of like how any kind of downtown would be. Just store after store after store. Now, the store next to her saw a man walk in. He heard a loud pop, and he saw that man leave. Mm-hmm. That store owner came over to see what happened, and to his surprise, he found Sarah on the floor dead with a bullet wound in the back of her head. Now, when police arrived, they interviewed a grocery store owner, and he claims he saw a man climbing up a hill towards I-70. And that, from the description that the grocery store gave him, matches the exact description of the I-70 killer. So they for sure know it was him. But they also for sure know that this Sarah Blessing was his last victim.
Okay.
Now, some possible murders that they haven't ruled out that he was the actual killer of these. So about a year and a half later, on September 25th, 1993, in Fort Worth, Texas, Mary Ann Glasscock, she was 51. She worked at her own little antique shop called Mary's Antique Shop. Her too was found on the floor with a bullet wound in her head. Another murder that happened on November 1st, 1993 in Arlington, Texas, with victim Amy Vess, who was 22, was shot to death in a dance apparel store. Now, they don't think that the I-70 killer was, or is their suspect in the Amy Vess murder, mainly because when she was shot to death, she was shot multiple times.
Oh.
Not once, like every other I-70 killing has been.
Yeah.
So it was a little, it's like, it doesn't fit his MO, but the one at Mary's Antique Shop definitely fits his MO. But they wouldn't be surprised since you have Fort Worth, Texas, and you can get over to Arlington, Texas from there as well. Mm-hmm. Now, about 2.5 months later, on January 5th, 1994, in Houston, Texas, we meet Vicki Webb. She's 35 and owns her own alternative gift shop. I'm going to leave that up to anyone's imagination what they mean by alternative gift shop, because I couldn't find it. But my mind went to some pretty dirty places. So eyewitness accounts say that they saw her speaking with the killer briefly and that she was shot in the back of the head. But miraculously, the bullet hit a big vertebrae, so like right at the base of her skull here, and didn't penetrate her skull.
What?
Vicki remembers what happened, and she turned her back to grab something for the killer, and she felt like her head was just shoved. She starts to pass out a little bit, but she remembers hearing the gun misfire before turning around and passing out.
I'm speechless at that one.
And these are all accounts that she's giving from the hospital room as well. After she's come to, I don't know how long it's been after, but she distinctly remembers having her head pushed, or what felt like her head being pushed, but it was actually the bullet, hearing the gun misfire. So the killer was trying to get another shot off. He realized he messed up, and he was trying to make sure that he did the job right. But his gun misfired, and when she passed out, the police suspect that he assumed that she's dead. But even given that she survived the attack, she couldn't give an accurate description of the attacker. That was the one bit of piece of information she could not wrap her mind around and couldn't give accurate descriptions. She remembers talking to a man.
Probably blacked that out.
Mm-hmm. Probably. I mean, granted, it is the most important detail, but at the same time, she is alive, and somebody was looking out for her.
To deal with trauma, like, your brain will make you forget literally anything.
Oh, absolutely.
If it's bad enough.
Oh, absolutely. So that last one happened in 1994. We have one more that could have been potentially the I-70 killer.
Okay.
Happened in Terre Haute, Indiana in 2001.
Oh, another one. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So the reason they think why this is the I-70 killer is because he's killed here before. And they're thinking that he's gone back to his old killing grounds, or one of them. But here we meet Billy Brossman. He's 31. He's a liquor store owner. And fortunately, they have security footage of the man entering, the altercation happening in the store, and outside of it. So the security footage shows a white man entering the store, pointing a gun at Billy, commanding him to take all the cash out of the register. And once the killer had all the money out of the register, he took Billy back to the back of the store, turned him around, shot him once in the back of the head.
Is he shooting these people execution style?
It seems like it. So upon closer examination of the security footage to try to get a good, accurate picture of the killer, turns out that it matched no known descriptions of the I-70 killer. So this is a whole other man. So here's what we know from the years of investigating. All the murders were committed with a .22 caliber firearm, probably a handgun. All victims were alone except for Patricia and Patricia, but police suspect that he didn't know that there was going to be multiples there, and that was his one and only time murdering 2 people.
Yeah.
The Patricia, he was going after the store owner and not the employee. The employee just happened to be there, which is unfortunate in itself.
Absolutely.
But they're all shot in the back of the head. None of the women were sexually assaulted. I can also say the man wasn't sexually assaulted in any way, shape, or form as well. All the stores were robbed with some kind of money being taken from the registers. And the murders happened all at slow times of the day. So like the Patricia and Patricia one, after 6 o'clock on a Saturday, no one's going to be around in the stores.
Yeah, he's not going in during the busy times, during the rushes.
No. And with Robin, happened around 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Wednesday. No one's going to be around there. Michael McCown happened later in the evening on a Friday. No one's going to be around really then as well. And the Nancy one where she worked at the Boot Village, that happened at around 1:30, 2 o'clock on a weekday as well. There's not a whole lot of people there. So, I mean, he had to have, police suspect that he had to have been casing a lot of these places to make sure he knew who he was killing.
Yeah.
But the exact reason as to why is still unknown. Mainly because they've not caught him in any way, shape, or form. So with the murder, with that span of murders, they were able to get 2 composite sketches. So basically like the full characteristics and features of the face. Yeah. So again, being a tall white male, and back in the early 90s, he was in his 20s or 30s. He was 5'8". A new piece of information from multiple witnesses says he has a lazy eye. A more accurate description of his hair was more sandy blonde or reddish, which I guess, I mean, if it's brown, sandy blonde, it all kind of look the same. Seems like the reddish hair is a very a common description from all the witnesses.
Yeah.
As of 2021, they age progressed him a few decades to see what he may look like now. He's probably in his mid-50s to his late 60s. That's if he's still even alive today. In 30 years of this being active, no one's been able to identify him, whether they bring in anybody that has an accurate description or anything. They haven't been able to pinpoint it on anybody. They haven't had enough evidence to charge somebody with any of these crimes. And the case has been classified as a cold case for obvious reasons. So, as of 2022, in April last year, marked the 30th anniversary of the unsolved murders. Police in all these cities and towns want to make it abundantly clear that this case is still very much open, and they've opened a new tip line. So if anyone has any tips or leads on the I-70 killer and his murders, there's a $25,000 rewards that leads to his arrest, and anyone with information is asked to call 800-800-3510. That's 800-800-3510.
Want to go do some investigating?
Let's go do some investigating. I could use $25,000.
Right? No, but in reality, the fact that that is still open and that they're still offering a reward on it is very telling.
Oh yeah, they want to get this guy. Which, I mean, yeah, I'd want to get him too.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
It's the skeptic in me. It's like, it's been 30 years and you haven't been able to catch him.
Yeah, but the Golden State Killer was only caught just a few years ago. And how many years between his last killing and when he was caught?
That is true, which he is on my list to cover as well.
Yes.
So you never know. And like I said, if this man's still alive, because, I mean, who knows his health? And I mean, if he's almost in his late 60s by now, you never know. And he could have also fled the country for all we know. Gone to Mexico, Canada, or any other place.
Any number of options.
You know, it's still just weird to me, though. What I still can't wrap my head around is because every source I found, no witnesses said that they heard a gunshot. No witnesses said
none
that.
of them said
None of them said they heard a gunshot. I get it. It's a .22. It's going to sound like a bottle rocket, but in a retail store, that's going to be loud regardless. Yeah. So it's just weird to me that no one heard a gunshot unless he was using a silencer, which...
Do they make silencers for...
Oh, yeah. Okay. Absolutely.
I don't actually know anything about guns, which is why I'm asking so many questions.
That's fine. That's fair. More than happy to answer them. But I will say is I don't know if they had silencers back in the early 90s for .22s even. So it's dumbfounded unless this dude was so smart and he figured out how to make his own homemade silencer of some kind to fit his .22.
Unheard of.
Which is definitely not unheard of. You can make them and would be the only thing. And I mean, police suspect that as well, but it's dumbfounding.
Yeah, that's very crazy.
It is. And they also didn't go... The other thing I wish they would have gone more into is how they handled each investigation of what kind of evidence they found and everything. Unless this man is just so squeaky clean that it's...
I don't think he is, though.
I mean, you never know. I mean, serial killers are weird.
Serial killers are weird, and I think a lot of them get by on dumb luck. And maybe
but some of them are so smart. I mean, look at the Zodiac killer.
Yeah.
I mean, how smart with those deciphers and everything.
Yeah.
But I feel like a serial killer, it's not just one particular kind of person that's going to be just he had a shitty childhood, so he's going after people that look like his mom or look like his dad.
Yeah, this was very different. It's like there was motive, but there wasn't motive.
And we may never know exactly why he decided to kill these people. Who knows? I mean, maybe his mom was a petite woman with light brown hair and beat him as a child or sexually abused him as a child. We don't know. It's all up to speculation.
Yeah, because we don't know who he is. It's all cold. So.
It's a cold case, but still the police from Terre Haute, Indiana, all the way to Wichita, Kansas, and in Texas, they all want to make sure that this guy is brought to justice. But it goes without saying that the candlelight could be getting dim at this point with it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah, there was two good stories.
Two good stories. They were both pretty quick stories too.
A little quicker.
That's okay. Last episode was a bit longer. I also want to point out I cut 40 minutes out of that episode.
Wow.
Out of episode 4.
We had almost damn near 2 hours.
We had over 90 minutes recorded.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Nice.
So I just want to point that out there. And like I said, you'll get tangents on Patreon, Tangent Tuesday, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, so be on the lookout for that. And as well, always look out on our social media pages for any updates or news. Announcements,
anything like that. We are working on some fun things in the background here. Just kind of plucking away at it here and there.
Yeah, so eventually you will have more sources to listen, more content, and we're hoping that you guys enjoyed as much as we do. And
absolutely. Do you want your fun fact?
Let's hear the fun fact of the week.
Okay, it's a short one, fitting with the stories. If a person's left eye twitches, there will soon be a death in the family.
My left eye twitches all the time. I don't like that.
Well, fuck Austin.
We haven't had any deaths recently, have we?
Not that I know of.
Not that I know of either. Everyone's still healthy. As far as I know. Let's keep it that way, yes. Good vibes to all of our family members and to all of our listeners. We'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
For episode 6, let's get her.
Bye. The Bleeding Grave podcast is hosted by Hannah Slavic and Austin Wenger.
Music by Hannah Slavic.
You can find us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
You can listen to The Bleeding Grave on Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, and Google Podcasts.